significant things happen in our lives when we don't allow fear to rule us. Good morning and welcome to From the Dailies on Equa Television, where we look at stories making headlines on our national, international, and also the sporting world. I am Owola Bitosin. Sele Elisha is here with me. We'll be doing this together. Note that we are live on Facebook. Do well to drop your comment, and half past the hour, our phone lines will be opened for you to call on stories that interest you. We have a whole lot of papers we'll be reviewing and things that will interest you on these papers. Do well to call us in.
Paper, I will go with the big story. 2023 battle for tickets pits governors against senators with the right attention in states over slots. Parties moderate struggle for positions. Ministers insist no resignation before the primary. Detail of that can be found on page 4. Let's seek foreign aid to free adoption. And if you want to know more about that, you can check page 5. And let us this is really a sad one because it's already 30 days we said since this victims have been in captivity of the terrorists, and it's a sad one to hear that those who the terrorists are yet to even say what they actually wanted, even though from the very beginning they stated clearly that they do not want to even talk to the relatives of the people that they have adopted. They want to speak directly to the government because the government know what they want. And I know people have been coming out to say, why don't the government meet them and give them what is it that they want? Because people are already becoming skeptical and they feel that possibly the government is actually working with them. If not, why would the terrorists have the effrontery to come out and state clearly that the government know what they want? So we're still keeping our fingers crossed. It's a sad one. Yesterday we saw the pictures of the people that are there, and here we're seeing that people are coming out to say that let's see foreign aid. If this is what we need, then we should do that. I think it's lingering too long for us to keep saying that we need foreign machineries, and yet we've not done anything about it. We need foreign aid to be able to free this. I think if you know what these terrorists are, or if you know, because we actually know who they are, because I believe we know who they are, because we already have a list of those who are sponsoring them. We already have pictures, or we already have some fingerprints of where these people are located, some very strategic points that they are residing in the forest. So what we are hoping, we're trusting that the federal government should be proactive and move forward and see what can we do to free these people. It's the fact that we heard that even a pregnant woman that was together with them gave birth to her child while in captivity. It's really a sad one. You can imagine the trauma that the little kids that are there going through, the pregnant women and lots of people that are going there. Imagine you'll be standing right there and somebody will be shot and you are not expected to even cry, gist and laugh as if nothing happened. You can imagine they're already playing with your psyche. So I just hope that the government will actually move forward and do what is expected of them, because we just don't want to hear lip service again. We know they're doing their best, but we can do more. Let's not just focus on the forthcoming election, because it seems all attention has been moved towards the 2023 election and nothing is being said about this. Let us handle these things with all the strength that is needed. Let us give it all the attention that they need, because when these people are still there, how can we guarantee that the 2023 election is even going to be safe at the end of the day? So we are hoping and we are trusting that the federal government will move forward and do what's expected of them.
Yes, concerning this is not the first time we've been hearing people coming up to say let's seek for foreign aid in fighting this battle of insecurity. We had the issue where the Bishop Matthew Kuka spoke about seeking foreign help to intercept in issues of this issue of insecurity, where the governor of Borno State, that is Zulum, came up to say we can't fight this battle alone, we need foreign aid. If this battle is above us, why not just agree that this battle is above us and seek for foreign help so we can come put hands with our military for us to fight this issue? Because look at this issue of those trained abductors. It's getting to a month now, because today is the 31st day. It's up to a month now where these people have been abducted and nobody is doing anything about it. And even these people, they just speak to their loved ones, but they can't speak to those abductors, to those who kidnapped these people. So we just need something to be done about it. These people came up and said the government know what they need, and the government is not saying anything about it. And today again we are seeing on our papers where the Senate are saying still they are still bent on the issue of no paying of ransom to kidnappers. If you don't want us to pay ransom to kidnappers for them to release our loved ones, then that means you should be proactive about bringing those people, because not just those people that those Kaduna train people that were attacked. We still have other people that have been attacked, but have been kidnapped like single-handedly. They are still in these places, and the government is not saying anything about it. They are saying people should not pay ransom to get their loved ones out of this. And I can imagine how you will just be relaxed when you know that your loved one is in a place where his safety is not even guaranteed, and you should be relaxed and you should be happy about it and rely on the government to bring these people out. And the government are not even proactive. They're not making any measures to bring these people out. So we need to look into this. If we need foreign aid to fight this issue, then we should just go to them and let them know that yes, we can't fight this, we need their help. There are countries who look out for help. Look at the Russian-Ukraine war. It was open that if you are willing to come and help, the doors are open for you to come and assist them, because the battle was beyond them. So if this battle is beyond us, we should be open and allow people, foreign aid, to come and help us to fight this thing, because the way things are going, people are being kidnapped every day. Just yesterday I was telling a colleague, I said, if you come to work, you go home and you sleep and wake up, and you should be grateful to God, because it is a big gift. There are people even at home, just in on the plateau, just we had where a woman was abducted in front of her husband, and the children wanted to be abducted. She was struggling with these people, and they shot her right in front of the husband, and they took 2 kids. So you see all these things happening. They even go down to the home to abduct those people and even kill people. We've had stories like this happening. So we just need foreign help to come put hands together, because these people are not relaxed. They have so many tactical means in fighting this. When we talk about weapons, they have the weapons. You see it even on those amateur videos. You see them, they have the weapons, they have the means to move themselves from one place to the other. So we need to be proactive, and we need to take issue of insecurity like paramount in our country. We need to fight this issue of insecurity so that people can go about their normal businesses and the people can thrive in their activities.
And that's why I'm saying that if all the basic amenities that they are having is giving them all the comfort that they need, because they have fuel to fill their cars, they have light to even charge all that they need. They have everything that is needed. So we just hope that our government will be proactive, just like you rightly stated. Other stories still on the Nation newspaper. UBA posts 183.9 billion naira gross earning in the first quarter. And on ASU, 1.6 trillion naira yearly foreign tuition, enough to fix the varsities. Detail of that can be found on page 5. And the Ojakuta Steel Akape oil ore takes 853 million naira revival cash. Detail of that can be found on page 4. And on fraud, federal government extradites Nigerian suspect to US. Man kidnap ex-lover. Detail can be found on page 2. And on APC get petition to disqualify Abiodun with the rider governor allegations spurters. And we also have a picture story here where we can see Yahya Bello and also the All Progressive chairman Adamu Abdullahi. So we just hope that whatever will be the outcome of the election, whoever is competent will be the one that we head. Other stories here, we have INEC resume insurance of the 33,000 PVC in Lagos. And the last story, 4 burnt to death on Lagos Ibadan Road. Detail can be found on page 2 and also on page 27. And that's all on the Nation newspaper.
Thank you, Sele. Moving to the Garden newspaper, Fayemi Amosun Nwajuibe entry swells APC presidential aspirants. 14 years on, Lagos Airport awaits runway lights to end blackout. And this can be found on business page 18. The big story on the power sector, federal government sinks more funds despite low performance. FEC approves multi-billion naira contract for electricity supply. And next speaks for discourse, a misplaced priority. This is coming from the stakeholders. Repeated grid collapse pushes federal government to revive $2.3 billion power deal. An expert seeks involvement of states in discos and gencos. Banks will take over all discos, just a matter of time. To boost electricity supply, the federal government, the Federal Executive Council, presided over by President Muhammadu Buhari, again approved multi-billion naira contract for the power sector yesterday. Minister of Power Abubakar Aliu, while briefing State House correspondent, said all three memos presented by his ministry scaled through, adding that the approval were for the purchase of major electricity transmission equipment. According to him, the cost of the project, which include procurement of power transformers and construction of 260-kilometer transmission line in Kebbi State, will cost 217 billion naira. He also disclosed that the council approved the contract of 853.25 million naira to engage in our power sector. Really, we can't talk about a country that is growing even in economy and even thriving in its GDP without talking about the power sector. And we know that since the beginning of this year, we've been having issues with our power sector, the blackout, and it has affected businesses and it has even affected manufacturers. We see where yesterday our bakers were saying a loaf of bread now will cost 1,000 naira because they have to go down to get the diesel to run the power, their generators. And we see even our health sectors now, individuals are the ones left to buy diesel to run the generator for their loved ones to be operated upon. So we need to look into our power sector. We need light, availability of light, and you see that these blackouts also have been another advantage to all these bandit group and even to these terrorists, because they look out for places that they are total blackouts, so that they invade in such places. And with this blackout, there is nowhere for you to run to because they've already come in. They come in when there are no lights in such communities. So we need to look into this. The federal government have approved this contract, and we just hope that those that are giving this contract will do the right thing, because this is not the first time we've seen contract approved with a huge amount of money going like this, and you just say that they just use low standard materials, and later on you see that the issue again is coming up. So we just hope that the Minister of Power, the federal government, and the contractors will do the right thing that they're supposed to do. We need lights like 24 hours because people depend solely on this light to run their businesses. Small scale businesses need to thrive, and it need to thrive with all this electricity. So we need to look into this, and we just hope that those that are in charge of supervising this contract, supervising these people, they should do the right thing, because we should not allow greed and selfishness be the order of the day. Because if greed and selfishness come into this, that's when you start looking for your own cuts. So the person will look for his cut, and after we give these cuts, what is left for this contract now will remain very small. And I said that's why we see that low standard material will be used for all this. So something needs to be done, and the right things need to be done. We're just hopeful that within the short period of time, we'll have light restored back even in the community and in the country at large. And still on the Guardian newspaper, federal government, states, local government share 726 billion naira in March. Excess crude account stands at $35 million. Senate rejigs Terrorism Act, outlaws payment of ransom. And Lagos State government has failed me, says man whose school was seized. Again, court adjourns hearing of Kanu's suit against federal government. Wike declares Guba aspiration wanted. Again, bandits kill 19 Uruguay natives in Kaduna. 1,000 storms APC Secretariat as Yaya Bello picks nomination form. And that's all on the Guardian newspaper.
All right, let's take a look at Algeria newspaper. Embrace CBN economic intervention to promote financial stability. And this is coming from an official. Detail of that can be found on page 2. And on 2023, Afenifera mauls unity government with the rider as reaction trial call for interim government. It's threat to democracy, Northern Group. Other stories still on Algeria, we have NDID tax political parties or drug tests for aspirants. Detail can be found on page 9. And we have $840 million PAT club reform. Court slam contempt charge against 5 sons. And on presidential race, I'm not afraid of Jonathan, says Yahya Bello. Another story here, Rep someone Adebayo over MTN's 2.6 million tax evasion. Alba residents send save our soul to government over flooding.
And we hope that the governor will actually look into this, because we've always recorded cases where once the rains are coming, flooding. And
I think that was it last year or so, we raised awareness, the fact that it's very important that people are being educated on how to build their roads, on how to keep their drainages dry, not to return the drainage to be refuge dump at the end of the day. And this is where we see the moment there's any little rain, flooding into people's homes, farms are being destroyed. So I just hope that the governor of Aba will actually look into this issue and make sure that things are being put in, and it will be an eye opener to even other states to look into how they can keep their own environment as tidy as possible, so that when the rain is coming, especially July, August, when we know the rain is constant, it will not cause flooding to the farms and even to people's homes.
And Sele, not just in Abia alone, we have it in Abia State and even in Delta also. The rainstorm have destroyed a whole lot of things, and the rain is just coming up. It's not that heavy, and we just hope that they will do something about it before the rain becomes heavy. The government should do something about it. If the drainages can be cleared, because there are drainages that are blocked, and this causes this flood. So the drainages should be cleared, and also we should have waterways where water can easily pass, not just in Abia State, in Delta, and even all the states. We need to take like fast measures before the rain becomes very heavy.
Exactly. Thank you, Tosi, for that meaningful contribution. Still on Nigerian newspaper, Senate amend I take that Senate amend Terrorism Act prohibit ransom payment. Detail of that can be found on page 30. And the picture story here, we can have the new Permanent Secretary, Mrs. Beatrice JD, Mrs. Kachalom. We have Madam Shehu Ibrahim and Mrs. Mary taking oath of office before President Muhammadu Buhari at their inauguration during the FEC meeting at the Presidential Villa in Abuja yesterday. And there are many more stories on Al Jazeera, so do well to get Al Jazeera newspaper and carry more of that story.
Thank you, Sir Leon. Daily Independent newspaper. Federal government okays 853 million naira for consultations to concession Ajaokuta Steel, and approves 10.48 billion naira, $27.9 million for Ministry of Power. The Federal Executive Council meeting presided over by President Muhammadu Buhari on Wednesday approved a contract sum of 853 million to effect major repairs and operations of the Ajaokuta Steel Company and the National Power Grid Complex, both in Kogi State. And this will be another way to boost the state, that's Kogi State, and even to help in job creations. We know that the government said, the British government said, the British said they will take charge of repairing this Ajaokuta Steel Company, to bringing it back to its lost glory. But now we can see that the federal government have put a huge amount of money to revive the Ajaokuta Steel Company, and also to look out for the power sector in Kogi State. This is very good if it is done the right way, because it will help in job creation, and it will help in boosting the GDP of Kogi State, and even make Kogi State to be another center of production, with product activities taking place in such place. And politicians engrossed in 2023 poll while ASU strike lingers. And this is coming from the Labour Congress. The front page comment says sexual assault in Nigeria, citadel of learning. While on insecurity, Afenifere advocates government of national unity, says it will midwife a new democratic government. Details can be found in page 29 of the Daily Independent newspaper. Senate prohibits payment of ransom to kidnappers. The Senate has amended the Terrorism Prevention Act 2013. The amendment seeks to outlaw the payment of ransom to abductors, kidnappers, and terrorists for the release of any person who has been wrongfully confined, imprisoned, or kidnapped. The amendment bill was passed for the third and final time on Wednesday after the Senate considered the report of the Committee on Judiciary, Human Rights, and Legal Matters. The chairman of the committee, Opeyemi Bamidele, APC Ekiti Central, presented the report. The major objective of the legislation, he explained, is to discourage the rising spate of kidnapping and abduction for ransom, a menace with now spreading across the country. He also said the amendment to the Terrorism Act will set standard and regulatory system intended to prevent terrorist group from laundering money through the banking system and other financial network. Having policies in place to combat the financing of terrorism will surely reduce or eliminate privacy and anonymity in financial and other sundry transactions as it relates to the subject in our society, he said. The proposed amendment to the Act was triggered by the unfavorable rating of the amendment, which therefore geared towards improving the effectiveness of countermeasures against terrorism and financing and proliferation financing. And this has to do with the issue of the abductors, kidnappers, and the Senate have passed a bill saying that no one should pay ransom. If no one is to pay ransom, then the government needs to do something about it, because now we saw where politicians are engrossed in this 2023 poll, and we spoke about it yesterday of length. They are worried about this election come 2023, while we have the educational sector, we have ASU at home now, we have issue of kidnapping, people are being kidnapped, ransom are being demanded, and all we hear is the president telling the chief of the chief security officers that they should launch an attack in such places. If you are to launch an attack, we are not hearing something that is coming forth, like positive story coming out from this. Every day we keep on hearing that a Shekau is dead, and these people are still doing this issue of insecurity. They are still killing people, they are still kidnapping people. We still hear this in Kaduna State. Just here in Kaduna State, some indigents were killed in Kaduna State. We see all these things happening. Just yesterday, a chieftain was killed also in Kaduna State. So we need to do something about it. This narrows back to the issue of looking for foreign aid to fight issue of insecurity, because this is also under the umbrella of insecurity. We can't have a credible poll, we can't have a peaceful election with this insecurity being the order of the day. If we need to move our country forward with all these things, with all these manifestos you're coming up with as an aspirant, if insecurity is still thriving in our country, whatever things you have, whatever plan you have to move our country to a great nation, insecurity will still draw you back. So we need to tackle this. We need to look out for ways we can tackle insecurity. If we tackle insecurity, we will all enjoy a good Nigeria. We will all enjoy a good government. So we need to look into how we can tackle insecurity, and even the educational sector, because we can't bring out so many manifestos and say within so days I will tackle insecurity, within so months I will tackle this and that, and our educational sector is lagging behind. We need to look into all those things that will help us thrive and help us grow in our nation. On the independent newspaper, while we are seeking 150 billion naira bridging financial facility, this is coming from Delta State government. And on banditry, Zamfara government dethrones 2 emirs and district head. Details are also in page 7. NDLEA asks parties to make drug tests part of screening for aspirants. And APC rules out special preference for Jonathan, calling on him to run unpatriotic and irresponsible. This is from Ayo Adebanjo. It's odd to have Jonathan imposed as consensus candidate. This is also coming from Sagi. Details can be found in page 29. And the last story says UBA posts 18% growth in earning as profit hits 44.5 billion naira. A picture story here, we can see Governor Dapo Abiodun, the governor of Ogun State, during the presentation of independent newspaper to the governor of the year with the digital economy to the governor, or in the governor's office in Okimoson in Abeokuta. That's all on the Daily Independent newspaper.
Let's take a look at the New Telegraph newspaper. CBN data confirms drop in external reserve by $128.4 million. And on 2023, Nigeria needs courageous leaders, PDP ex-ministers forum. Detail of that can be found on page 4. Thousands storm APC secretariat as Bello pick nomination forms. And we have $418 million Paris Club refund, court grants substitute service of contempt charge against 4 sons. And U.S. out of COVID-19 pandemic phase, says Dr. Fauci. Detail of that can be found on page 5. And the big story here on the presidential ambition, Labour Minister DS APC says he won't resign as Awujobi joins presidential race, beg union to call off strike. Federal government has abandoned students for politics. This is coming from the NLC. Nigerians spend 1.6 trillion naira on tuition abroad yearly. This is what ASU is saying. It says Nigerian varsity reduced to nothing under Ngige. And I think this is not just about the Minister of Labour. We also have to ask the Minister of Education, what has he been doing thus far, ever since ASU went on strike? The last time we heard anything was when he said he was not aware of the strike. He walked out on the student. And I know that looking at the money I think this is not the first paper we're recording how much we're spending when it comes to educating our words outside the shores of Nigeria. And we've said this, rather than enriching other countries, paying millions and billions of naira to those countries, why don't we look into reviving our own educational sector? We have all it takes. We have all it takes. I keep repeating it. Nigeria, we have the good environment. We have good teachers. We have good doctors. I mean, when you go abroad, check out the doctors that are there. You know that most of them, about 60 to 70% of them are Nigerians. And they are doing well over there overseas. Why? Because we have failed as a nation to make the environment conducive for them to operate. So I just hope that the Minister of Labour, the Minister of Education would sit down and think very, very hard. We're already going to the month of May. We'll be celebrating Workers' Day. What do workers have to celebrate as Workers' Day? Most of them, their salaries have not been paid. Pensioners are still crying because if you go to almost 36 states of the country, of the Federation, they're still, lamenting and crying for their pensions to come in. We had reports where various governors of various states are yet to pay pensioners, and they are coming out saying they want to contest for the position of the president. So this will bring to her to say, if you cannot handle the little office that have been given to you, how will you be able to handle the bigger nation? There are bigger problems. So I just hope that we'll look into this, because it's really a sad one. With each morning you wake up, it's either your brother, your sister, or your loved one, your neighbor are sitting at home idle, doing nothing. Because if they say they have to learn a skill, were they not aware of the skill before they said they wanted to get educated? I think this is a question we need to ask ourselves, because it baffled me, especially take me back to when one of the member of reps stood up and said, let us ban public officers from sending their words abroad. They didn't even give him the chance to finish. They laughed at him and told him that cannot. In fact, they didn't even pass the first reading, not to talk about the second reading. So I just hope we'll look into this. We are not trying to say that our ministers are not doing well. They have been doing well thus far, and that's why we believe in them. But we're holding them accountable where they do not do what is expected of them. So we just hope that they will look into this, because it's not just about focusing on their political position. When you don't enrich, or when you don't do what is expected, who will go to the post to elect you? It's still the same people that you are neglecting. So I think we really, really need to come back, call them to order, let them know this is what is expected of them to do when it comes to education.
Yes, Sola.
Other stories still on the New Telegraph. Police recruitment, only 1,569 at the Southeast applicant shortlist. This is coming from the PSC. Anambra State list with 143. Then we have 1,441 showed up for the CBT. And then we have 42,231 shortlisted for the NC, NE, and NW. And more about that can be read on page 2. And we have Senate prohibit ransom payment to kidnappers to discourage rising spread of adoption in Nigeria, to enhance federal government effort in fight against terrorism, kidnapping. Bill will be counterproductive, says Sands. And just like we said, if you are prohibiting that, then that means you have put other measures on ground. Because if our security agents are complaining that the gadgets, the equipment they have are outdated, then we need to look into what we need to do. Because it always, what happened to our security agency when they fought for Liberia? We're proud to go out and help them. So what is wrong that we cannot be able to fight our own little internal issue that we're having? Because if you ask me, Tosin, this is a little thing. I believe that our government are above. They have all it takes to do that. All they need is just a little push and they will do that. So I just hope and I believe that they will know that we believe in them. We have not given up on our security agents. We have not given up on Nigeria. We have not given up on our leaders. We are just calling them to order, calling them to be accountable to the position we give them to do what is expected of them to do. And the last one here, it's a study that says antibiotic in infancy linked to weak response to childhood vaccine. And more about that study can be found on page 26. And that's all on the New Telegraph newspaper.
On the Voice of Liberty, How has served Tinubu others in their difficult time. This is coming from Vice President Yemi Oshibanjo. On 2023, APC stakeholders support groups reject Jonathan's participation in party's primary. Still on 2023, all political aspirants should be tested for drugs ahead of election. This is coming from Buba Marwa, the NDLEA chairman. And on Kaduna train attack, photos of hostages most disturbing, says Colonel Umar. Senate amends Terrorism Act, prohibits making payment of ransom to kidnappers. A bill seeking to prohibit the payment of ransom to kidnappers have passed the third reading at the Senate. The bill was passed after the Senate Committee on the Judiciary, Human Rights and Legal Matters adopted his report in the plenary yesterday. On 2023, APC candidate Arewa Groups accuses Governor Bagudu of plotting to facilitate Jonathan's emergence. And IPOB wants Wike to stay away from Southeast, count his sins against Igbo. Afenifere advocates government of national unity to tackle insecurity, says Buhari lacks capacity. And Kaduna train terror attack victims countdown 31 days in captivity. And really, that is really sad, counting down to days like this for people to be in captivity. But before we move to the next paper, we'll be right back after this timeout, where our phone lines will be opened for you to call on stories that interest you. Welcome back. We're live on Facebook. Do well to drop your comments on stories that interest you, and also place your call because we are live. Our phone lines are opened and displayed on your screen. Do well to call on stories that also interest you. We have a whole lot of papers we've been reviewing. I am Ola Bitosin, and Sele Elisha is here with me in the studio. Well done, Sele.
Thank you so much.
Let's continue with this day newspaper.
Yes, and the first story here. This day presents video evidence of Wike's unreliability, praising Amechi Obaseki yesterday, attacking them next day. With the writer says publishing governor's character flaw in public interest. Well, for those who are interested in that, you can check the continuation of that story on page 34. And it's really a sad one, looking at the fact that friends will actually turn out to be enemies. But what do you expect? It's that year where all manner of things will be said, all manner of things will be digged out. If you really want to know a history about your life, Tosin, just attempt to come out for a councillor or a chairman in your local government. Then people will begin to dig out everything about you. But one thing we really want to keep our fingers crossed is the fact that we need people that have people who have integrity, people that have good character, people who be courageous, people who have what it takes to be able to take the mantle of leadership, regardless of who they actually hold. Because I know the issues of godfatherism, where you go there and there, you don't want to do all this expected because somebody somewhere sponsored you. We're looking for a time whereby all these things will be a thing of the past, where when you are given the mantle of leadership, you own up to the responsibility and do what is expected of you to do at the end of the day. Still on this day newspaper, Senate amend Terrorism Act in bid to staff off sanctions. And we have Nigeria will sink if it doesn't substantial discharge leadership in 2023. It's coming from Baba Ahmed, and he's a warning given. Detail of that can be found on page 34. Tinubu joins political business leaders in Saudi Arabia for prayers and networking. With the writer Atiku, Dangote, Rabiu, and others meet strategies for 2023. And we have thousands have stormed APC Secretariat as Yahaya Bello picks his nomination form. And we can see a picture story there where Bello journey to the presidency begins. And we wish him all the best on his journey. And that's all on this day newspaper.
On Leadership newspaper, troops kill 30 terrorists. Explosion claims 3 soldiers in Katsina. Kaduna train attack victims spent 30 days in captivity. Despite denial, National Hospital cancer treatment machine not working. Senate amends Terrorism Act, bans payment of ransom. UBA posts 183 billion naira earning as first quarter profit hits 44 billion naira. Zamfara deposes two emirs, district head over banditry. The big story on presidential screening. NDLEA wants drug test for Oshibanjo, Tinubu, Amechi, other aspirant. Writes APC leadership says PDP aspirant orders to follow. Yaya Bello Nwajuiba picks 100 million naira nomination form. Amoson to declare next week. Amechi meets Southeast delegates in Owerri. Details can be found in page 4 of the leadership newspaper. And that's all on the leadership newspaper, Sele.
Let's take a look at the Daily Trust newspaper on 2023, why aspirant must undergo the drug test before primaries. And if you want to know why, you can check that story on the Daily Trust newspaper. And we have the Federal Executive Council have approved 853 million naira for the Ajaokuta Steel Atepe oil or concessioning. And disqualification threat, which is the big story on the Daily Trust newspaper, how APC guidelines put Amechi, Ngige, Madami and others in tight corner. And the rider following that, aspirants have 72 hours to resign. I'm not aware of the new rules. This is coming from the Labour Minister. And we have Awujuba pays 100 million naira for the presidential forms. And we can see the picture of Amechi, Madami, and Ngige. And it will actually be a surprise to citizens when the Labour Minister will say he's not aware of the new rules. I think this is something that has been pushing for like almost from the very beginning of the year. This has been off and on between the Senate and the President on the cost of removing that section that said that you cannot be a serving minister and still want to contest except you resign 30 days before the primary. Now we know primaries is starting in May. So we actually don't know why the minister is saying that. But regardless of that, we keep our fingers crossed to see the end of that story to say. Other stories still on the Daily Trust newspaper. National Assembly criminalize the ransom payments. Two Zamfara emirs disposed over banditry. And detail of that also can be found on page 7 of the Daily Trust newspaper. Why I shot 9 kids playing football. This is really a sad one coming from an Edo vigilante. Well, I hope that we'll go to the very tail end of the story to know the reason why he did that. And the last story here, 30 days after, government yet to rescue the Kaduna train attack hostages. It's been a month of trauma. This is coming from the victim's family. And we have Colonel Dengiwa. He said, do everything to release adoptees. And we actually hope that the government and the security put their hands together and reunite these victims to their families. And that's all on the Daily Trust newspaper.
On Daily Sun newspaper on 2023, supporters storm APC secretariat as Yaya Bello picks nomination form. Abia First Lady Saraki's wife eulogized Son Award. And UBA posts 18% growth in earning as profit hits 44.5 billion naira. Details can be found in page 25. And APC is set to disqualify aspirants over resignation. Party's deadline to political appointees to quit expire this weekend. I want to resign, vows Ngige, citing court's order on section 84, subsection 12. Kidnapping, Senate strengthens Terrorism Act, makes ransom payment grievous offense. Colonel Umar tax federal government on Kaduna train attack victims. And on $418 million Paris Club refund, court grants substituted service of contempt charge against 4 sons. Afenifere slams Buhari on State of the Nation, says President has shown incapacity and lack of will. On 2023, Alake backs Oshibanjo as Anyim Fayemi intensify lobbying. Amosun Nwajuibe join presidential race, with details in page 26. The picture story here, the managing director and editor-in-chief, The Sun Publishing Limited, Onuoha Uke presenting letters announcing Abia State First Lady Dr. Nkechi Ikpeazu as the winner of the Sun Most Supportive First Lady Award in Umahia, and former First Lady of Kwara State and founder Wellbeing Foundation Africa, Mrs. Toyin Saraki, as winner of the Sun Humanitarian Service Icon Award in Lagos. And that's all on the Daily Sun newspaper.
A look at the Vanguard newspaper, How I Reconcile with Allah Affair Before He Died. This is coming from Ladoja. Detail of that can be found on page 10. Why We Want Government of National Unity by Afenifere. And on 2023, Royal Blessings boosts Osibanjo's presidential ambition. And UB8 profitability rise 9.6% to 44.5 billion naira. Other stories still on the Vanguard newspaper, NDLE asks political parties to make drug tests part of the screening for aspirants. Angry youth chase away Ondo majority leader over poor performance, and the youth are actually rising up to their responsibility. And I think this should be an eye-opener to other monarchs that are actually not doing well, or to leaders in various positions that are not doing well, that the youth have realized their power and they are ready to use it to demand what is expected of them. Other stories still on the Vanguard, Thousand Storm APC Secretariat as Governor Bello picks nomination forms. The big story on Vanguard, Electoral Act Ingige, Awojuba opts not to resign, with the rider Constitution permit aspirant to resign only 30 days to poll. Section 84, subsection 12 of the Electoral Act has been struck down by court. This is coming from the Minister of Labour, Chris Ngige, and the party aborts resignation notice. And we have the NLC forms over federal government silence on the prolonged varsity workers strike. Detail of that story can be found on page 25. And we have kidnapping, Afenifere Sanford Senate criminalization of ransom payments. And Nigeria stand-up bill, senators pledge quick passage as youth protests at the National Assembly. And on the hush puppy, Madami application store hearing in Abba Kyari extradition to the U.S. Detail of that can be found on page 4. And that's all on the Vanguard newspaper.
Moving to the Punch newspaper, subsidy hits 1.35 trillion naira in 4 months. NNPC to deduct 672 billion naira. And this is the Punch newspaper. Senate prohibits ransom payments. Abductees' families seek talk with bandits. On drug test, NMA backs NDLEA. NBA demands legal backing. The chairman and chief executive of the National Drug Law Enforcement Agency, Brigadier General Buba Marwa, retired, has written letters to the chairman of the All Progressive Congress, APC, Senator Abdullahi Adamu, requesting that officials of the NDLEA be given access to conduct drug integrity tests for politicians seeking political offices in the country. Marwa said that when it is the turn of PDP and other parties to conduct its party primaries, he will also write the national chairman and request that operatives of NDLEA be allowed to conduct drug integrity tests on a political aspiring for higher positions. The NDLEA boss, who was seeking duty in the first quarter award ceremony of the agency in Abuja, explained that the drug test is necessary to ensure that politicians vested with important national offices will not use the budgetary allocation to go and buy cocaine or other drugs instead of providing needed services for the masses. Still on the Punch newspaper, federal government, states, local government share 725 billion naira as federal allocation rises. And EFCC extradites fraud suspect to US over $148,000 as scam. Afenifere 6 unity government says Buhari has failed. On Electoral Act, which is making rounds on the Punch newspaper, more commissioners step down as Buhari ministers refuse to go. Governor Tambuwal, 11 commissioners, SSG, chief of staff resign. Amosun joins presidential race. Yaya Bello, Nwajuiba picks form. I won't resign, says Ngige. NLC flees campaign amid ASU strike. And Lagos traders protest shooting of businessmen. Killer cop, celebrator disappears. Ondo youth chase lawmakers over poor performance. Politicians blames opposition. 2 killed in Oyo. PMS clash. Police begins probe. And federal government selected states to spend 120 billion naira on ranches and others. Apprentice flees to Seme as Lagos wife gives birth to quadruplets. Fire guts TB Joshua's property, destroys tomb shelter, and 10 die in Lagos Ibadan road crashes. FRSC blames speeding. And that's all on the Punch newspaper.
Let's take a look at the Teen Trust, which is for teenagers. Technology has transformed teaching, learning of mathematics, and you want to know more about that. For those who have words that have an issue with mathematics, you can check page 4 of the Teen Trust newspaper. And we have the World School Games. Schools celebrate heroic student athletics. And you can see the page story of the team that got back with trophies that they won. This is really a good one that we need to applaud our teenagers for doing a good way and representing us well. We also have other stories on lifestyle that can be found on page 7, on career that can be found on page 5, and also on your well-being on page 14 that can also be found on the Teen Trust newspaper. And that's all on the Teen Trust newspaper.
On Sweet Crude reports, Total and Shell makes fresh oil exploration bid in South Africa. Death toll from artisanal oil refinery fire mounts underscores Nigerians' inefficient security of oil assets. And Governor Fayemi commends Total emergency and changes Shell acquisition center. TSA impedes disbursement of CVFF. And we have a caller, Mr. Solomon from Kaduna. Good morning. We've lost the call. Do well to call us back, Mr. Solomon. And that's all on the Street Crude newspaper.
Let's take a look at the International Business Standard newspaper. As Russia turns off gas to Europe, LNG worry spikes. We have cotton not reaching spinners as the local agents sell it to others. We also have a city where children can't play. So if you want to know more about that, do well to get the Business Standard newspaper and can read any of the stories that's of interest to you.
Thank you, Sele. On national economy, assess economic intervention to promote financial stability. CBN urges Nigerians. Nigeria achieves 3.3 trillion naira capacity retention in oil sector as local content grows to 42%. And federal government approves 853 million naira to enlist consultants for Ajaokuta Steel Company concession. UBA posts 183 billion naira earnings as profit hits 44 billion naira in first quarter. And federal government, states, local government shares 725.571 billion naira for March. Details can be found in page 5 of the National Economy newspaper.
All right, the last paper I think we'll be taking, which is for sport lovers, the Sporting Life newspaper. We have PSG will sell Neymar for 76 million euro. Man United to beat Chelsea, Man City for right race. Others here, we have nobody like Rugaji decision to leave. This is coming from Thomas Tuchel. That's what he said. And on Liverpool and Villarreal, we have 2-0. Red Sink Yellow Submarines at the Enfield. Other story here, Morano holds on to old coaching habits, but football has changed. And we also have another one, why I decided to take the Pennica pen. You want to know more about that, you can get the Sporting Life newspaper. Other story here, Chelsea ready to spend 50.65 million euro on porn tourists. PSG hopeful of new Mbani deal. And we have the Premier League could be represented by 9 teams in the Europe next season. So for sport lovers, do well to get the Sporting Life newspaper and can read many other stories that's of interest. Yeah.
Thank you, Sele, for going through this ride with me, and thanks to our viewers for watching. The difference between who you are and who you want to be is what you do. Invest in the right things. Have a good day and see you tomorrow.